السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. حي على الفلاح. لا إله إلا الله. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل تعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم إن الله عليم خبير. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. All praise belongs to Allah. We praise Him. We seek His guidance and His forgiveness. We seek protection of Allah from the evil of our own selves and our own bad actions. Because whenever Allah guides, no one can misguide. Whenever Allah leaves to go astray, no one can guide them correctly. I bear witness and testify that there is no deity worthy of worship except Allah alone, without any partners, and that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was His servant and messenger. O mankind, know that your Lord created you from a male and a female, created from them many nations and many tribes, many races, many ethnicities, that you may get to know one another. The best amongst you in the sight of God, those with the most God consciousness. O you believe, fear Allah, and don't die except in a state of full submission to Him. O you believe, fear Allah and always speak the truth. that He may improve your affairs, that He may forgive your sins. And whoever obeys Allah and His Messenger has surely already attained a great success. Amma ba'd, as what follows. One of the most important moments in the seerah, the biography, the life of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was the hijrah, the migration from Mecca to Medina. It's so important that out of all the incidences, out of all the events and all the times and all the issues and challenges and moments in the life of the Prophet ﷺ, this part, this segment, this story was chosen to mark our calendar. We're living 1,400 and so many years after, starting from the hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ. He migrated from Mecca to Medina. It was huge. Major impact. It was an inflection point. It was a point of big change. It was critical. Major change from being an oppressed minority, tortured, beaten, abused, boycotted, stolen from, expelled from their homes, kicked out of their city, everything. And on top of that, even once they were kicked out, and even after they left, kicked out by their own family members, their own uncles and aunts and parents and brothers and sisters and kids, even then and even afterwards, they were still oppressed. They were still fought. They still came after them, still stole their stuff, tried to sell their stuff, still tried to kill them and their family members and try to wipe them off, wipe their city off. But that point was not the end of the story, but a very important inflection point. Major change from being an oppressed minority to being a somewhat comfortable majority. There are so many lessons to be learned, so many points to be derived just from that incident of the hijrah, but I want to bring your attention to and focus on one specific part. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, for 13 years of preaching and teaching and trying to bring people together and trying to remind and encourage, motivate and inspire, warn people, it's part of the job of a prophet. All of that with as much love and care and concern as he could, and still being attacked and humiliated, insulted, tortured, abused, him and his followers. He finally gets to Medina, where he's celebrated as a leader, chosen as a leader, has a number of followers, has a city that we can actually create plans and goals and build. He does 3 things at the very moment that he reaches Medina. 3 initial things. His plan, he ends up being there for about 10 years in Medina, ﷺ, and of course creates a generation, goes all around the world, and the rest is history. But the moment he reaches Medina, the moment they have a bit of space to breathe, he does 3 things. Do you all know what they are? The first was brotherhood and sisterhood. He brings together warring tribes in Medina. The pagans, the Arabs of Medina before he came, there was 2 major groups, Al-Aws and Al-Khazraj, or 2 of the different tribes that had been fighting for a long time. They saw each other and they remember, you killed my uncle and you killed my father and my dad and my brother, and we're not on the same page. People make the analogy of like the Bloods and Crips in America, but anyways, there are many analogies to be made. Warring tribes for a long time. In fact, they had been fighting for so long that pretty much everybody was already dead except for those who were younger. They lost generations to these constant battles back and forth. There were really nobody that's 40 and above. Everybody was young, which has its positives and negatives. You don't have the wisdom, but also more readily accepted the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, more readily accept change, more readily followed a new faith and religion. So Allah planned it perfectly. But essentially, that could be its own khutbah. The Aws and Khazraj were constantly fighting, and the Prophet ﷺ brought them together. And by presenting a new faith, Islam, that they both accepted, that made it a lot easier to come together. They have a lot more in common than they did that kept them apart. And they have a common leader. He also brought together the Muhajirun, or the Muhajirin, and the Ansar, those who immigrated from Mecca, like him, ﷺ, and the Ansar were those who accepted Islam and were already living in Medina, the hosts and the guests. Those who immigrated and traveled and therefore sacrificed their time and their energy, and their money, and their resources and family members, and left their land and property and businesses. And those who supported them and cared about them and took them in gladly, willingly, lovingly, supported and promoted them, helped them out and guided them and taught them. And Ansar and Muhajirun, he brought them together through brotherhood, through sisterhood, through a buddy system, through mentorship. He paired them up, and so on. So number one was unity and brotherhood and sisterhood. First thing he did when he reached Medina. Absolutely relevant in our times. We don't have any else in the Khazraj today. We don't have Muhajir and Ansar per se, although we have immigrants and refugees. It's not the same, but analogies can be made to every time and place. The seerah of the Prophet ﷺ was designed, as all of history is, by Allah. A story made up of stories that are meant to inspire and guide and motivate people all throughout history. We know this and we believe this, but we should think about it. Just like the ayahs of the Quran are always applicable, the seerah is there for a reason. So brotherhood and sisterhood and unity, something we should think about. Number two, he opened up a marketplace. They came to a new city, and now those who came and those who were already there, they're now of a new faith, new value system, new worldview. There are principles. Our deen is not just about salah and dhikr and dua and Quran and hajj and umrah. It is absolutely. It's also about how you do business and so many other things. So he encouraged them to start a new marketplace, their own marketplace. So when they go up and trade with the Levant area, the Sham, Syria, Palestine, Jordan, etc., Lebanon, today, Iraq, etc., Turkey, and to go down to what is today Yemen, and they had a place, their own market. They could trade with others, even non-Muslims in Arabia, the pagans, and the Jewish community in Medina, and so on. But they were independent, which is the focus of today's khutbah. And number three, they built a masjid, which we'll also discuss. He built a masjid, of course, not just any masjid. It's still there today, Masjid Nabawi, the second holiest site for Muslims. And it was a lot more than just a masjid. It wasn't just a place for prayer and dua and Quran and dhikr. Of course it was. It was also a place to seek knowledge. It was also a community center. So many activities and so many events. So much. And if you look at a lot of the hadiths we have, it was people coming to ask him questions in the Prophet's house. And in the Prophet's masjid, and they asked him questions on everything. So discussions, dialogue, debates, da'wah, khutbahs, all happened there. It's a university, it's an institution, a community center, and I can go on. But today specifically I want to focus on that point about being independent. Building our own organizations, our own institutions, our own masajid, which is one type of institution. Our own institutions, our own organizations, our own masajid, but being independent. It starts here and here, and of course it will manifest itself in society. To be independent, nothing to be afraid of. On the contrary, there are a lot of benefits. But it's part of the seerah, first and foremost. It's part of the sunnah, the lifestyle of the Prophet ﷺ, that he sought throughout his life as much as possible to be independent. Not because he hated others. That's not why he went to his cave. He didn't go to Medina because he didn't like the Mecca or the Meccan people. He loved them, and Allah knew this, and everyone around him knew this. Both sides. He had a love and care and concern for people, but if you're independent, you can help people better. If you have your own value system, and you have a way of seeing business, and the people around you are dealing unethically, you have to have your own business, your own market, your own brands. He sought to be independent so you can help people, not so you can hurt people. But something to think about. The goal of independence. Let's look at our communities and our own lives and our own families. Do we proudly support our own masajid? We've built almost 3,000 masjids in America in the last 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years plus. Mostly in the last 20, 30 years. Do we proudly support our own masajid? To an extent, and we could do better. Our own community centers, our own events. Maybe in a sense it's an unfair comparison, something to think about. How many Muslims, not our wider society, we're 1%, it's not fair to compare. How many Muslims will go to a soccer game, or a basketball game, or a football game, or a concert, versus those who come to Jum'ah, or the Friday night halaqah? Very few. Our Friday potluck tonight, inshallah, it's a community event. We will pray, but it's not just an event about prayer or worship necessarily, it's about community. Good food, good people. It's for you, something to think about. If you're more excited about going to events where the Muslims are, where it's not for us or by us, than you are to come to our masjid, there might be a problem. Something to think about. Do we support our own organizations, our own institutions? With our own charities in America and the UK and around the world, alhamdulillah, we do a decent job. There's plenty of room for improvement, but we do decent. The stats show that Muslims in America, Muslims in the UK, the most generous people in their society. And our charities are pretty much in every country around the world, always there to take care of people after earthquakes and floods and wars and violence and hunger. We can do better, but our charities we do okay. So I'll focus more on, rather than the non-profits, I'll focus more on the for-profits. Many of us are working professionals, no problem whatsoever. It's a beautiful thing. A lot of us are highly skilled laborers, working professionals. Top companies, top hospitals, top universities. We have professors, we have lawyers, we have engineers, doctors. It's a beautiful thing, but is our community balanced? Because for a community to thrive, you also need leaders, thought leaders, creative problem solvers. And I'm not saying working professionals aren't. I spoke this Ramadan, I had the honor of speaking to Muslim students at Harvard Medical School. And among the things I told them is that Muslims are 1% of America, but we're 10% of the doctors. It's a beautiful thing. No one's going to twist that into a negative. Beautiful statistic. Muslims are 1% of America, but they're 10% of the doctors. And we're known, Muslim doctors are known, and doctors in general are known and respected and admired and perceived to be and admired for being diligent, consistent, reliable, consistent, always there, patient, caring, knowledgeable, competent, so many more qualities, professional, stable and secure, mashallah. So beautiful qualities, definitely part of our deen. But a balanced community, in order to thrive, you can't just have people that are working professionals. Just encouraging your kids to go into these fields is quite narrow. Our community, to maximize our potential, we need more than that. In addition to that, and nobody get me wrong, inshallah. In order for us to thrive, we also need people that take initiative. So not just employees, but employers. People who build, people who are creative. We need ingenuity. We need patents. We need ideas. Thought leaders. We can't be independent until we have our own leaders and our own creative solutions. Wouldn't it be beautiful if we have solutions to our society's problems? We do, but are we often promoting them? Are we often sharing them with our wider society? How often do we present to the wider society that we have solutions to our problems because we care? We're not just here just to make some money. Yes, America is a place of opportunity, but are Muslims here just to benefit from the economy or benefit the economy? Is that the only reason we're here? Did Allah create us for nothing more? Absolutely not. Absolutely, He did. Create us for so much more. We have an opportunity in this country, and many of us here in the audience are not originally from here. That's fine. Know that you can do a lot more. And inshallah, if you feel like you are at your peak, at your max, putting in all your time, effort, energy, money, then may Allah bless you and reward you for that. It's a beautiful thing. That's ibadah. You're not just praying it's not just ibadah when you're here for 30 minutes out of the week. You at your companies and at your hospitals and your law firms, and you have to think of it this way, and you should, so that you get rewarded for it. That is ibadah as well. But maybe you can encourage your kids to see the world a little bit wider, because their world is a little bit wider than yours, quite a bit wider than yours, and that's a beautiful thing. There's haram and there's halal, and that never changes. But in America, there are opportunities that you might not have had in Pakistan and India, in Palestine and Egypt, in Nigeria and Indonesia. Here are some examples. If Muslims are 1% of America and 10% of the doctors, maybe, and I don't have the details and I don't have all the answers, it's not my field, but maybe we could build our own hospitals. How many of us, or how many of your kids were born in a hospital named St. Mark, or St. Luke, or St. John, or St. Nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. This is not me bashing other faiths or other religions or other religious groups. Nothing wrong with that. I don't remember the name of the hospital I was born in, but I think it was St. Mark or St. Luke. It's very likely in America. A lot of Catholic hospitals. But is it far-fetched? Is it impossible? Is it crazy to imagine or crazy to believe? I know there are a few examples, but very few. Is it impossible to believe? Impossible to achieve a hospital that's named Ali or Muhammad or Ahmad or Islam or Muslim? Why? Why is that impossible? Why is it far-fetched? Muslims are 1% of America, 10% of the doctors. Can a few of them that are very specialized start their own clinic or hospital? In Houston, there are a few examples. I'm sure the major cities like Chicago and New York all have a few. I'm just more familiar with Houston. But across the country, it's not so common. Inshallah, the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, we'll see more of that. Say Amin. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر لكم استغفروه يا فوز المستغفرين. Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wa salatu wa rasulullah. How many engineers, computer scientists, and IT professionals do we have in the Muslim community in America? And UK, Canada, Australia. We all know it's many. I don't have the stat, but it's many. I know for a fact because I have 100 of them are my friends. So there's got to be thousands across the country. How about starting your own tech firm? Your own IT solutions? Your own engineering company? I'm not saying it's easy. I'm sure it's not easy. But maybe you can think about it and maybe it happens 20, 30 years from now. Maybe you have that vision. Maybe you weren't able to do it for a number of reasons. Every extra dollar you make, besides paying all the bills for your family, speaking to the fathers and the mothers, maybe every extra dollar you send it to family members that are in need back home. Nothing wrong with that. Maybe you're not able to dedicate the time or the money to creating your own company. But maybe you can encourage your kids as they grow up at 10, 15, 20. They're in high school or they're in college. Build up their confidence and tell them that you believe in them and tell them that they can be the next Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos or Warren Buffett, etc. Why not? Everyone here in Omaha knows about Warren Buffett. I assume you do. And the impact he's had. And I might agree with him on certain things and disagree with him on plenty of things. Not the point. But is it impossible that in the next generation or two or three, that a person that's not only a major influence on a whole city or a whole state, but on the country and on the world, he's ranked, I believe, in 2023, number 6 richest man in the world, right? Worth 100 billion. So think of all the things you can do with that money. And think of the influence and impact you have in scholarships that he does. How many students go to UNO and get scholarships? How many nonprofits in Omaha, there are many, that his family has some part in donating to? The masjid itself, AMI, has gotten a sizable contribution from his family with no strings attached. But think about what you could do with a few million, let alone a few billion. So maybe you can encourage your kids to be entrepreneurs. Maybe they can be the next Warren Buffett. It's not impossible. Law firms. We have a lot more engineers and doctors than we have lawyers. Inshallah, with those who are more and more so born and raised here, inshallah, we'll encourage our kids to go into law. There are benefits. Lawyers run this country. It's a fact. They also, not only do they understand the law and therefore are able to help more people and help people with their problems and so on, but also in America, the legal system changes all the time. And politicians, congressmen, senators, most of them are lawyers at one point. They have an impact on the law. They can change the law. We all can as well. Everybody in America can write the law. You have to get enough people to vote on it. How likely is it though? But if you're a politician, you're a congressman, senator, you're voting all the time on different laws. And you could even draft your own. But usually the path is to go through law school. Just one example. And there's so many other reasons why we need more lawyers and have our own law firms. Immigration is one of the biggest issues in America. One of the biggest opportunities, challenges, opportunities. How many of them are Muslims from all over the Muslim world? So shouldn't we be leading on these issues? Alhamdulillah, we have good examples in Omaha of Muslim lawyers doing a great job in immigration. But we can definitely use more. And the interesting thing about this list that I have is that a lot of these areas are areas where we can also make a good, clean income. It's a beautiful thing. You make an income, take care of your family, but you also have more impact on society through your thoughts and through your movements and through your actions and decisions and where you put your time, energy, investments. Our own law firms, civil rights and human rights. Who believes more strongly in civil rights and human rights than we do? Shouldn't we be leading on these issues? How about all the civil rights and human rights abuses in America and around the world? A lot of them target Muslims. Shouldn't we inspire our kids to potentially go in these fields? We should. Some of my top teachers and role models and mentors are leading civil rights attorneys around the country. And almost on a daily basis, they're doing headline-worthy things. They're doing big things that, whether the media is there or not, they're worth being in the media. Almost on a daily basis. They're career and they get paid to do so. What's wrong with that? It's a beautiful thing. How about PR and media organizations? How long have we been complaining about how the media doesn't like us and they talk bad about us? This group and that group, and they have an agenda, and they hate Muslims because of our beliefs, they hate Muslims because of our quote-unquote race or culture. They hate us because we're immigrants and refugees, although we're not all immigrants and refugees. We've been here for 400 plus years, but this group might hate us from that point of view. Another group hates us because we're not liberal enough, we're not conservative enough, we're not Christian enough, we're not secular enough, we're not whatever. They might think we're too violent and this and that, and others might think we're not liberal enough on this and that. We can complain about it for generations to come. Easy to complain. Or we build our own media organizations, our own platforms, our own companies. Why not? We love to complain about how every group has an agenda. You know what an agenda is? Agenda is a set of goals. How can we not have our own agenda? How can we not have our own goals? You're going to live and die and not set goals for your life? Why? I know that agenda is a very negative term, many times in many contexts. It's very loaded and it sounds bad. And the Khatib saying Muslims should have an agenda. I know, but put that aside, put the word aside. Let's use the word goals instead. You want to live and die and just make a chunk of money, take care of your family, and not set goals for your community and society? You can. And you want to complain? You can't. That's not fair. Pick one. How about lobby groups? We have a number of Muslims every year. They go to DC and go to the Austin and Lincoln and capitals around the states, capitals of different states. And they speak on issues related to Muslims in America and issues that we care about. Homelessness and hunger, and I've said this many times, homelessness and hunger in America is an Islamic issue, not just an American issue or a humane issue or human issue. It's not just about humanity. It is, but it's an Islamic issue. Right? Sometimes our thinking on what Islamic causes are is quite narrow. It has to be a Muslim majority country. Who said so? Prophet ﷺ did not have that mindset. But lobby groups are people that go, and every American citizen can do this. You can go speak directly to your congressmen and senators about issues that you care about. It's part of the process of being in America. It's part of the system. It's part of what's acceptable. It's an opportunity you have. Will they listen? Some will, some will not. They don't have to. But every year, 50, 100, 200 Muslims from across America, a few hundred, go speak in DC. How many of those politicians do you think really care about what Muslims have to say? Some do, some don't. I'm there. I've done it for a number of years. I've talked to probably 50 plus politicians, alhamdulillah, in my 20s. Hope Allah will allow me to speak to thousands more in my lifetime and to inspire younger people to go there and make it a regular part of their lifestyle. Every year, multiple times a year, go to Lincoln, go to Austin, go to DC, go to San Francisco, go to whatever your local, whatever your capital is. Even if you might talk to 100 politicians, multiple times each on many different issues, and one of them listen to you on one issue partially, one time. That's huge though. There are a few hundred congressmen, a few hundred senators that make an impact on America, and America has an impact on the rest of the world. It's the number one, by far, the number one most influential country in the world. It's not a debate. I don't want to go into a tangent, but China and other countries, it's not even close in terms of influence. The Harvards of the world and the Hollywoods of the world are both in America. Number one, by far, most influential country in the world. And guess what? Many of us are American and we're Muslim. But we haven't even scratched the surface of taking advantage of all the opportunities that are there. We built about 3,000 masjids in America. And inshallah, in the next 20 years, they'll probably be double. Inshallah khair. The Muslim community is growing. Beautiful. We need to support our masajid and our institutions, but also to think big. It's part of the sunnah and part of the lifestyle and the story in the biography of the Prophet ﷺ that he sought independence. Not because he hated everyone, he wanted to shun himself from everyone. On the contrary, you really want to serve people from your values and your principles and your worldview, your love and concern for people, your relationship with Allah. There's no better way to do it than to be as independent as possible, as wealthy as possible. We want good money in good hands. You want to earn the money in a halal way and spend it in a halal way. It's not money. Money is not evil. Money is not the problem. It's people that are the problem at times. Fame is not evil. You want to build up a media company, you want the whole world to know. We're living through the communication age. If you look at human history, 1,000 years from now, so they look back, this is the communication age. The Stone Age, the Bronze Age, the communication age. And we have a message for the world. How are we going to stay silent? Make sense? But you have to be independent in your thinking, in your institutions, in order to do big things. We need artists and poets. Not my area. I know very little to do, nothing to do with art. But is it something that has an impact on people? How many people read books? How many people watch movies? That's art. And you're thinking about all the examples of movies that are dirty and nasty and disgusting with no purpose. They actually have a purpose. No people get together and spend millions of dollars and spend a year filming. Directors and producers and actors, people that are worth a lot of money, directors and producers that are genius, they put together millions of dollars to create a movie that has no purpose. Every movie has a purpose. There is an agenda behind it. But we can complain about that, or we can create our own movies. That's what I'm encouraging you to do. And let's say you say, Abdullah, this khutbah for the most of it was not relevant to me. That's okay. Tell your kids, because it can be more relevant to them. They probably grew up with social media. Creating a video is not far-fetched for them. And they might not need to get a bachelor's, master's, PhD to create a movie. They might be able to do so before they graduate high school, or before they graduate college, or soon after college, because they're living in a world that's quite different than yours. So maybe you can share this with them. We need artists and poets, filmmakers, producers, and directors. Of course, clean movies that are wholesome, that have a good message. We need, of course, more imams, scholars, youth directors. Half the masjids in America don't have an imam. Need I say more? It's obvious. Counselors, therapists, social workers, and psychiatrists. There's a term that I recently heard called psycho-spiritual. Our minds and our souls are very much tied together. So are our bodies. We know this. If you're feeling sick, it affects your ability to do your work, even if your work isn't physical. Make sense? If your mental health isn't good, you're not feeling so well, it'll affect your ability to lift weights. But you're not lifting weights here with your brain. They're connected. Easy. But also the spiritual and the psychological are connected. Psycho-spiritual. You can Google it. And there's some good articles on the topic, especially for Muslims. Hasad, envy and evil eye, they're real. Prophet said they're real. I believe in 110%. I've seen its effects my whole life. And you've all seen it with people around you and yourself in your lives. Mental health is also real. But what's the connection between the two? I'll be honest, I don't know. It's not my field. Inshallah, I hope to dedicate more time to researching this. It's relevant to working in the community, but I have not studied that topic in detail. But guess what? A balanced, wholesome, thriving community needs experts in this field. Not someone who, like me, will read an article or two or a video or two this month or this year, but someone who dedicated their life to that. You don't see around you people with mental health issues? It's a real thing, and we all struggle with it. Just like you can get physically sick, you can get mentally sick. And yes, with physical sicknesses, we all understand, okay, there's cancer, and there's diabetes, and there's heart, and we understand it to a certain level. They need pills, or they need medicine, or they need a surgery, we have a lot of doctors, so we value and love and respect that field. But mental health, we stay away from that person's crazy. We need that person, they're sick. You never get sick. And how about spiritual diseases? We've spoken about this, but we need experts in this field. How does psychology and mental health and spirituality, how do they overlap? The psycho-spiritual. We need Muslim, or I should say Islamic, people who have studied the deen. Counselors, therapists, social workers, psychiatrists. And some people agree with this and some people don't, but we absolutely need politicians in America. Politics is dirty. Politics is no, astaghfirullah. Like, it's dirt. It's a dirty area. It's a dirty field. A lot of dirty things are happening. But someone's got to clean it up. Or we can spend decades complaining, which is more Islamic. Prophet ﷺ, if he had the mindset of many of us, with all due respect to you, my people, my family, I love you, my community, a lot of the things that we say and do and the way we think, the discussions that we have and the arguments we have, if the Prophet ﷺ had that mindset, the Sahaba had that mindset, Islam would not be in Pakistan or India. It would not be in Tunisia, Egypt, and Malaysia. It would not be in Nigeria or Palestine, right? If he thought, I can't speak to non-Muslims, he was the only Muslim on the planet. Him and Khadija, Ali, Abu Bakr. How can you not talk to non-Muslims? How can you be like, oh, this is, in Mecca, we think America is dirty in many ways. Dirty, I'm talking about, not physical dirty, I'm talking about dirty as in like a lot of sins and major sins and promiscuity and things we want to see and things we want to listen to. You know what Mecca was like at the time of Prophet ﷺ before he was a prophet, or even after he was a prophet, or before he was the ruler of Arabia, before he was a leader? When they were non-Muslims, you know what it was like? People jogged around the Kaaba naked. Prostitution was rampant. Drugs, gambling, alcohol was all rampant. It was like Vegas. It was like New York City. It was like LA, San Francisco, etc. So we should have the mindset of, and if you can't, I totally understand. This might not be super relevant to you, but your kids, your grandkids, if they're born and raised here, we have the mindset of, our society has a lot of opportunities, a lot of challenges, a lot of issues, things I want to clean up. Right, but if we're not going to do it, who's going to do it? Or we can complain for the rest of our lives. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر لكم فاستغفروه يا فوز المستغفرين. يا رب يا الله اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين وأعلي كلمة الدين. اللهم لا تدع لنا ذنبا إلا غفرته. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. Allah, show us the truth clearly and guide us to following it. And show us falsehood clearly and guide us to staying away from it. اللهم اتنا في الدنيا حسنه وفي الاخره حسنه وقنا عذاب النار. Allah, give us the best in this life, best in the hereafter. Protect us from hellfire. Allah, forgive us our sins, have mercy on us, protect us. Grant us the best in this life and the best in the hereafter. Protect us from hellfire. Unite our hearts. Allow us to overcome any preconceived notions, any racism, any stereotypes. Allow us to overcome any spiritual diseases. Cure our sick and take care of those who are ill. Amen. I want to make a special dua specifically for the people of Sudan. They are not the only people that are struggling around the world today, unfortunately, but they are absolutely struggling and it's ongoing. We ask Allah to give them peace and stability. Allow truth, justice, and honesty to rise among them. We ask Allah to give them good leaders that actually fear Allah and actually have a good, legitimate concern for the people. We ask them to rid them and all of our countries and all the people around the world, rid them of leaders that are like modern day pharaohs that have no care and concern for the people, that are only in it for themselves. Ameen. Allah make it easy for the people of Sudan. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر لكم فاستغفروه يا فوز المستغفرين. قوموا إلى صلاتكم يرحمكم الله وأقيموا الصلاة إن الصلاة تنهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر وذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون.